Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Welcome back to the channel and another bike review. Today, quite unusual because I'm riding a bike that quite frankly I don't like. So the bike I'm on is the Honda CL500. Once again, I'm quite late to the party, and I'm deliberately late to the party for that reason, that when I first saw this bike I thought, actually, that's not really for me. So what am I doing riding it, I hear you say? Well, number one, Honda said, did I want to have a go when I had another bike in. They were sending a van anyway, so there was that reason. But the main reason is that many of you actually asked me when am I going to review the bike. Come on, lights, every time. So today is that day for my first and possibly only ride review. Stick around, stay tuned. Let's see if I actually change my mind about this bike during the course of this first ride. Okay, so welcome back to the channel on this absolutely glorious summer's day, even though I suspect by the time you get to watch this you might be well into autumn or even winter. Such is the way that scheduling of YouTube videos works. So despite what I may think about how this bike looks when you just see it in pictures, you can't argue with the price of this bike. It is built at under, or it sells rather, for under £6,000, which is quite amazing really when you consider you get all of Honda's build quality, legendary reliability for that price. So we're talking less than a Royal Enfield Interceptor, so you've got to kind of bear that in mind as I do this review. The bike itself is sort of strange. It's sort of got cues from a cruiser, it's sort of retro, and it's sort of a scrambler. Bit odd. So to explain what I mean and so you can see what I'm talking about, let me show you around the bike while I find some better roads. Okay, here she is then, the Honda CL500. What do you think? From that view, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on saying it's not a good looker. This one has been festooned with extras. The white plastic bits on it I think aren't standard. I'm not sure they actually add anything to the looks of the bike. Let's come in a little bit closer and see what we can see on here. I think the thing about the bike that doesn't work for me is that fuel tank. It's a lovely colour, this blue, but the way it sits atop the frame there just doesn't work for me. It's a bit like the Honda Rebel, which I don't like the look of either, which has a similar tank. This is a bit smaller than that though. It looks a little bit neater. I quite like the little shiny bits they've got here on the tops of the engine. That looks quite nice. Look how tall those cylinders are though, incredible. Round seat I quite like. Normally I quite like Scrambler-esque vehicles. They've got high level exhaust on here, look, to make it sort of give it that Scrambler vibe. I'm not sure they've kind of got away with it though, because just sticking a high level exhaust on doesn't make it a Scrambler, does it? It's I don't know, it just as a whole doesn't quite work for me. If we come around here, another extra I imagine is this side pannier, which actually is dead handed. I don't think that looks too bad. This is isn't one of those roll bags, but it unclips like that, and then it's got a zip in there, look, and that's, well, you can't really tell how much room there is there, but that's quite useful. Quite like that on retro style bikes. I think that sort of side pannier looks good. What else to show you? I could show you let's have a look at the light. Look, LED light on the front, all very mod. Something I really don't like about this is the ignition on the side. See that key there, and it's on the left side as well, which is not where you kind of expect. But one thing you can't complain about, if I come back around the other side, is the fit and finish on this bike. For a bike that costs less than £6,000, it is really nicely made. You know, the paintwork and so on it is really, really nice. But anyway, there we go. I know I'm going on and on about how it looks, but yeah, what do you think? Handsome or a miss on Honda's part? So welcome back aboard the bike. Of course, looks are very subjective. I'm sure there are some huge fans out there of how this bike looks. I'm just not particularly one of them. Ah, good, we're losing this Peugeot. Excellent news, just as we're starting to get into slightly faster roads. But regardless of how the bike looks and what I think of that, how does she ride? Well, actually really nice. And again, in the context of this being a cheap bike, you would never know that when you ride it. It feels like a quality item when you're on it. Starting off with comfort, the seat on it actually really is quite hard. When I first jumped on it I thought, blimey, that's not going to be good, but having now sat on it for a bit and settled in, it's actually not that bad. I don't know how it would do on a longer run. I'll probably never find out, but it initially seems quite hard, but there's plenty of room on here. You can move around, so if you're a taller person you'll have no problem. And yeah, it's an upright, comfortable riding position. You can probably see, I hope, if my 360 camera's still attached. Yes, it is. I can see it in the mirror. But my legs are almost, well, a little bit of an acute angle, nearly right angle. I'm sat upright. The handlebars rise quite a long way up here and are quite wide. It's a very comfortable position. So absolutely top marks as far as comfort on the bike is concerned. It's a very simple bike, as you'd expect. There's nothing fancy, no fancy electronics or riding modes or anything like that. So in terms of the switch gear and what you're looking at, all very basic. We have got this sort of auxiliary socket here, if you like. It's a cigarette socket type thing, rated at 3 amps it says on it. I would immediately stick a USB adapter in there, which are available for a few quid. Would make that more useful for charging up a sat nav or whatever, or even a GoPro camera if that's your game. So that's quite useful. Chuffed to see the brake fluid reservoir on here. Is way better than many expensive bikes. I much prefer these anodized metal brake fluid reservoirs than the sort of plastic piss pot affairs, as I call them. And then on the left of the handlebars, again, nothing particularly complicated. This particular bike, being a press bike, has been festooned with extras that you can get for it. So this one's got a switch here, look, for heated grips, which I don't suppose come as standard. Similarly, this bike has got the hand grips and the cowling and stuff, which are all extras on the bike. I'm not sure they actually add anything to the looks, to be honest. The mirrors are what I, famously describe as Mickey Mouse stalky affairs. I'm not a fan, to be honest, of them. They are a little bit vibrating, even though the bike doesn't feel like it's got a lot of vibration. And they're not optically perfect either, in that there's a little bit of distortion on the edges, which you may not be able to see on the GoPro, but with my eyes it feels like I'm wearing glasses that aren't quite the right prescription for me. It's that sort of effect. But again, you've got to bear in mind, this is a bike that's built down to a price. This is a very bumpy road that I'm going up now, and one that I usually use just to see what I think about suspension on bikes. And of course, cheap suspension on here, but I have to say, it actually feels pretty good, the suspension. I have no issues with that at all. Of course, it's not adjustable or anything like that, or fancy in any way, but for my weight, I'm 11 stone. It seems it's in that Goldilocks zone, you know. It's not jarring me fillings out, and it's not wallowing about to the point that I can't handle the bike, or it affects the handling of it. So no complaints there. Something I might complain about is the LCD instrument binnacle or device. I actually quite like the look of it. It's a black background with white decals or letters, as you can see, numerals, numbers, that's the word I'm looking for. And it's okay when it's dark like this in the shade, but when you get into sunshine it's actually quite hard to read. I quite like the actual device itself. It doesn't look low quality or anything like that. It's got everything you need, as in, a fuel gauge, as well as a clock and a gear position indicator, all handy things. And actually, with the sun behind me, it brightens up, but in certain angles of the sun, as I've been riding today, I've noticed that can get hard to read, but I quite like that. This is my favourite little handling road. Okay, down here now we're going a little bit faster. I can feel the suspension is a little bit bouncy, but it's not a sports bike. And at these speeds, 57 I'm doing, I can feel some high frequency vibrations through the seat. You could put it down to character, or it might get annoying if you're in the habit of riding around at 57 in fourth gear all the time. Let's bring her up to top gear, and that does alleviate the vibes a little bit. Right, let's go down here and see what she's like acceleration wise. You have to change gear quite quickly. Oh yeah, quite a lot of vibes right through the gonads actually, which some circumstances could be quite nice. But no, that would, I think, potentially annoy me over time. But again, I'm not here to just have a downer on this bike at all. I'm just giving you my honest first impressions appraisal. When you've ridden lots of bikes, you do get a feel for what you like and what you don't like. And again, it's just a personal preference thing. You may like all the things I don't like. So, and I'm certainly no expert. I've just ridden a lot of bikes, so don't take my word for it. If you're set on this bike, go and have a ride on one and see what you think. But pay a little bit of attention to what you think to the vibes. I mean, other than those couple of things I mentioned, I mean, it does... actually, it's just a really nice ride. It's very easy to ride. It feels very safe. It feels very friendly. Perfect first big bike, this, I think. Whilst I'm stuck behind this vehicle, why don't we just quickly whiz through the numbers. Let's take a quick look at the specification on this puppy. Okay, let's whiz through the numbers on this, starting with this engine then. What you're looking at here is a twin cylinder unit, which it has 471cc, 34 kilowatts it puts out according to Honda. According to Siri, that's 45.6 brake horsepower, 8,500 RPM, and 43.3 newton meters of torque at 6,000 RPM. Braking wise, on the front you've just got this single 310mm disc, and that's got a 2-pot Nissin caliper. On the rear, another Nissin caliper, this time a single pot, and that's on a 240mm disc. Suspension on the front, 41mm right way up forks with a gator, which looks very nice. At the back end you can just see there we've got a twin shock setup, and that gives it 150mm of rear travel. Seat height on here, a very friendly 790mm, so good for all but the shortest riders. Curb weight of the CL500 is 191 kilograms, so relatively light, I guess, considering that includes some fluids. The tank capacity of the CL500, 12 litres, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I imagine this is a very frugal motorcycle. Electronics, not much to write home about, but you have got LED lights. We looked at the light a little bit earlier, and then you've got this LCD display. If I turn it on, I can hopefully show you a bit what that looks like. There you go. Quite hard to see in some lighting conditions, but it's got everything you need. And last but not least, price wise, £5,999, regardless of what you think of the looks of it. And it's not that bad, let's face it. I think you can't argue with that price. It's an excellent value for money machine. Welcome back aboard. I've sadly not been able to dispatch this, I think it's a Lexus in front of me, since we were away looking at the numbers, but who cares? This bike isn't all about speed anyway. It's about enjoying the ride. And although I've been somewhat critical of the bike in this review so far, I have to say it rides really nice. It feels grippy on these corners, and it just feels honest and friendly, you know. Now the sun's behind me, I can see there's quite a lot of scratching on this display as well, look. So in common with many bikes, it's probably very easy to scratch that display. Maybe get yourself a little bit of that plastic protection film stuff on there if you get one of these. I've got a Kawasaki Z900 RS at home, a new bike that I've recently bought, and it's already scratched like that, and I'm pretty careful about not scratching things, so obvious that that's a thing that happens on these. But otherwise the fit and finish is lovely. This colour on this tank is particularly beautiful. I love it. Very narrow this tank feels. It feels like quite a small bike when you're on it, and it's quite nimble as well feeling. It doesn't feel heavy at all, although, you know, when you're around it, it doesn't seem like it's a small bike. Now I have got a car behind me. I just want to try the brakes. It's a little way away. Let's just give them a quick tickle on the front. Yeah, you have to give them a bit of a haul to have any effect, but they do, you know, they're quite predictable, but they don't have any sort of initial nightmare bite. You've got to give them quite a shove to make them work. The front forks don't dive too much though, so that's not too bad. You're not going to find yourself getting out of control if you're in a heavy braking situation. We'll just try the rear. Rear at this point is almost non-existent. Again, nothing against this bike. I mean, so many bikes are a bit like that, and it might just be that this is a new bike. Perhaps they aren't properly bedded in yet. Clutch feels lovely and light on this, and I've had absolutely no issues with the gearbox at all. Properly modern feeling gearbox. I've had no forced neutrals. It's easy to change gear. As I've said a couple of times, it's a very easy bike to ride this. If you're maybe new to biking and you're still building your confidence, then, and you like the look of this bike, so I was just checking that the 360 camera's still there, and it is. Lost too many of those to not check once in a while. Yes, if you're still building your confidence, maybe you're new to riding and you're moving up from a 125 or a 250 or something, then I think this would be an excellent bike upon which to build your riding craft. It's got enough go that you can, you know, keep up with all but the fastest traffic. Well, certainly you can keep up with the fastest traffic on motorways, and it's got enough gumption to allow you to do swift overtakes. Well, let's have a look at my feet. Look, flat on the deck here, flat on the deck either side, so again, confidence inspiring. If you're a shorty like me, I'm only 5'8". I have a 32-inch leg, which people tell me is quite long, but yeah, no problem getting my feet down on the deck on this. So again, easy to ride. So it's an interesting one. At the start of the review, I said I didn't like the bike, and would this first impressions review change my opinion of it? Well, it has a bit. I mean, I still don't much like the looks of it, but that is entirely down to personal preference. So personally, I wouldn't buy one because I buy largely on looks. Sad but true. And the looks just don't do it for me, and they're not helped by these add-on bits of white plastic either. But in terms of how it rides, it's absolutely fine. The suspension, as I said, is set just perfectly for my weight and size. It's a comfortable place to be. Seat might be a little bit hard. Some minor niggles, like the mirrors not being perhaps optically perfect, but again, I'm clutching at straws to find things there. There are a few vibes through the seat, but you know, I was whinging about them earlier on in the review, but now I've ridden the bike a bit further, they're not in the ranges really that I'd be riding this bike a lot in. I don't think that's a seriously bad consideration. So in terms of how the bike rides, I like it. So overall, definitely the bike has gone up in my estimations. So from starting out not liking it and kind of writing off the CL500, it's not a bad bike after all. But I still wouldn't buy one. Sorry, Honda. You can't like them all, can you? But you can't argue with the price. There's a lot of build quality here. Earlier on, again, I mentioned, you know, it's less than a new Royal Enfield Interceptor, bike I love and I love the looks of, and did indeed buy on looks. But the build quality of this is way surpasses the Royal Enfield, I have to say. And the Enfield ain't bad. This doesn't feel budget in build quality whatsoever. So if you want a bike that's going to be frugal to run and reliable, I think this is going to be very good to you. Alrighty, I'm not too sure there's much more I can tell you about the bike based on this initial first ride. It's comfortable, rides good, don't like the looks of it. That's my kind of summary. Hope that's of help to you. Please feel free to disagree in the comments below. I'm not right about everything by any means. I'm happy to be corrected on anything I've got wrong. Check out my small print at the start of the video if you want to leave a rude comment. Maybe read those first and then think again. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I look forward to reading your comments. Alright, if you've not done so already and you'd like to, do consider hitting that subscribe button. That way I'll see you again on the next video, and I look forward to speaking to you then. Until then, this has been the Mr. and Flyer. Cheerio.